see,
Bentley.
I only see 7 people right now.
I don't see anybody either, Judy.
I have
That's what I
11. They're all coming. They're joining now. I have 11
Okay.
people.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Do you have the ability to mute everybody until they raise their hand?
Sure.
Okay.
Let me just,
That'll stop some of the background noise. If you can hear me, folks, you can unmute yourself by hitting the space bar. We need a recording of some of the people whose numbers we don't recognize. I see Pauline Harrington. She's just a number iPad. The Cheese Bros, Helen Jones, I recognize. I assume Janelle's iPhone is Janelle Bard. Is that correct? Janelle's iPhone?
would
Yes, that's
assume
me.
so.
Yes, that's me.
Okay, thank you. Betsy, who is Betsy, please? Who is Betsy, please? Please hit your space bar and talk to me.
Officer Scrafford.
I'm sorry, please say that again.
Officer Scrafford.
All right, thank you. Someone is labeled Bentley's. Who is that, please?
Tom, Kathy, and Dalton Bentley.
Thank you. Are you registered voters?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Melissa Saburn, Ellie Henry, Mark Pitts, Lisa Khalil. I see a telephone call in. Last 3 digits are 960. Will you identify yourself, please? Unmute your button, whatever you have to do on a telephone.
Bill Waterhouse, Ken.
Thank you, Bill. I see Kevin Foley back, and the now
Ken, you're muted.
Muted yourself.
shouldn't have. Okay, I will not touch my keyboard again. This is the process that I said last week we would have to have one more time. We have now been told by someone who outranks us all that we have to do it 3 more times. So we will be conducting meetings on March 3rd and March 10th and March 17th to do essentially the same thing. So this is just your official notice of the change. The 2021 warrant, the town of Woodstock, the inhabitants of the town of Woodstock in the county of Grafton in the state of New Hampshire qualified to vote in state and town affairs or in town affairs are hereby notified that the annual town meeting will be held as follows. The official voting day will be April 13th, 2021. The polls are to be open at 10 a.m. to act upon Articles 1 through Article 26 and will not close prior to 6 p.m. The business meeting to be held virtually with the opportunity to attend virtual public hearings via Zoom or phone prior to voting. Our location will be the old town hall, which is now showing behind me at 924 Daniel Webster Highway in Woodstock. The details: after the public hearings, the voters will have the ability to vote on all warrant articles by ballot. Voting options include absentee, drive-up, or traditional booth voting on April 13th, 2021. The booth voting, or in-person voting, will require mask, a temperature check if patients are too warm to get in or do not wish to wear a mask. A separate area will be set up for them to vote at Town Hall. I'm told that I have to read the entire articles tonight. I'm going to read them. You can get a cup of coffee or you can listen to me read them. And then we will have a chance to allow the public to participation. Article 1, to choose town officers, to choose all necessary town officers for the year ensuing: 1 selectman, 1 town clerk, 1 tax collector, 1 treasurer, 1 fire chief, 1 library trustee, 1 trustee of the trust funds, 1 cemetery trustee, 2 budget committees, 2 planning board members, 3 floodplain board of adjustments member. Article 2, do you approve of the optional meeting procedures? The selectmen and the budget committee recommend this. Article 3, the bond purchase, land and building, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $480,000 gross budget to purchase the land and buildings located at 459 Daniel Webster Highway, Avery's Garage, tax map 115, lot 004, currently owned by the Dalton Avery Revocable Trust, for the purpose of relocating the highway department and for future expansion of the town office space, and to authorize the issuance of $480,000 of bonds and notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds or notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon and the maturity and other terms thereof, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, and or other aid, if any, which may be available for said project, and to comply with all laws and applicable to said project, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take any other action or to pass any other vote relative thereto. This will be voted on the general ballot and will require a 3/5 ballot vote required to pass. That would be 3/5 affirmative vote to pass. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. Article 4, the operating budget, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the Budget Committee recommended sum of $3,938,916 for the operating budget. This amount does not include any articles voted separately. The Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. And Article 5, to establish a capital reserve for the community center, to see if the town will vote to establish a community center capital reserve fund under the provisions of RSA 35(1) for the improvements to the community center, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be placed in this fund. Further, to name the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend from said fund. Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Article 6, revaluation, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be placed in the existing revaluation capital reserve fund previously established under the provisions of RSA 35-1 to meet our constitutional and statutory requirement that assessments are full and true, which revaluation must occur at least as often as every 5th year. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Article 7, paving, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,000 to be placed in the existing paving capital reserve fund previously established. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Article 8, a highway block grant, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $22,349, which is the anticipated grant amount this year to be placed in a highway block grant capital reserve fund previously established under the provisions of RSA 35-1 for the purpose of any maintenance, repair, and/or improvement to Class 5 roads in the town. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Article 9, the town building maintenance, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,000 to be placed in the existing town building maintenance capital reserve fund previously established. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Article 9, fire department maintenance, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,000 to be placed in the existing town building maintenance capital reserve fund previously established. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote will be required. Article 10, the fire department equipment, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to be placed in the existing fire department equipment capital reserve fund previously established. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote will be required. Article 11, fire truck, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 to be placed in the existing fire truck capital reserve fund previously established. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation, and a majority vote is required. Article 12, library computer equipment expandable trust, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,000 to be placed in the existing library computer equipment expendable trust previously established. The Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Article 13, the Main Street revitalization, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be placed in the existing Main Street revitalization capital reserve fund previously established. The Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Solid waste facility improvement. Excuse me. Solid waste facility improvement, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to be placed in the existing solid waste facilities improvement capital reserve fund previously established. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. Article 15, highway maintenance, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $45,000 to be placed in the existing highway maintenance capital reserve fund previously established. The Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Article 16, highway heavy duty, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be placed in the existing highway heavy duty equipment capital reserve fund previously established. The Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. a majority vote will be required. Article 17, Sewer Department, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be placed in the existing Sewer Department Capital Reserve Fund previously established. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Article 18, Water Department, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be placed in the existing Water Department Capital Reserve Fund previously established. The Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this appropriation with a majority vote being required. Article 19, Record Preservation, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the existing Record Preservation Capital Reserve Fund previously established. The Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Article 18, Water Department, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be placed in the existing Water Department Capital Reserve Fund previously established. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Record Preservation, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the existing Record Preservation Capital Reserve Fund. I just read that, I'm sorry. Article 20, Police Department Equipment, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the existing Police Department Equipment Capital Reserve Fund previously established. The Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. Majority vote required. Article 21, Regulation of Noise Ordinance. Pursuant to RSA 3139, the town of Woodstock hereby adopts the following ordinance regulating noise. This article has been submitted by petition and recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Regulation of Noise Ordinance, Section 1, Purpose. The purpose of this ordinance is to regulate unnecessary noise and to promote public health, safety, and the quiet enjoyment of life for residents and visitors while within the boundaries of the town of Woodstock, New Hampshire. Regulations of this nature are allowed under New Hampshire RSA 3139. Is that a I, paragraph N? Section 2, unnecessary noise prohibited. It shall be unlawful for any person, firm, corporation, or other entity to make, maintain, direct, cause, or simulate any excessive, unnecessary, or unusually loud noises, including without limitation, those which are prolonged, unusual, or unnatural in their time, place, and use effect, and or which are a detriment to public health, comfort, convenience, safety, welfare, quiet enjoyment, and or prosperity of the residents and visitors of the town. This prohibition shall apply unless such noise is exempted below. Section 3, exempted noise. This prohibition exempts A, persons operating machinery, vehicles, or equipment while engaged in snow clearance or snow removal operation. B, noise resulting from activities of a temporary duration permitted by law and for which a special permit therefore has been granted in advance by the town of Woodstock, or if applicable, permits from the state of New Hampshire. C, farming and or agricultural activity and machinery used in furtherance thereof. Farming and or agricultural activity and machinery used is defined as equipment, tools, machinery, and processes customarily used for animal husbandry, crop farming, and other agricultural endeavors. D, public works, public safety, emergency, and law enforcement equipment and operations required for the effective delivery of public services. E, loading, unloading, opening, closing, or otherwise handling boxes, crates, containers, building materials, trash cans, dumpsters, or similar objects between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. F, the operation of construction vehicles to include, but not limited to, bulldozers, graders, dump trucks, backhoes, earth-moving equipment, front-end loaders, and to log skidders between the hours of 7 o'clock a.m. and 10 p.m. I'm reading exempted from the noise ordinance. G, the operation of construction and/or household tools and/or equipment to include but not limited to cement mixers, hammers, staples, or nail guns, power tools, that is saws, drills, grinders, sanders, chainsaw, electric hedge trimmers, lawnmowers, snowboards, jackhammers, etc. between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. H, parades and public gatherings for which the Board of Selectmen or Chief of Police has issued a license or permit. I, bells, chimes, or carillons while being used for religious purposes or in conjunction with religious services, and those bells, chimes, and carillons that are presently installed and in use for any purpose. J, traffic traveling on Route 93. K, normal gravel removal activities on properties appropriately permitted for such activities by the state or exempt from such permitting by statute. L, shooting ranges which were lawfully established, constructed, and began operations prior to the enactment of this ordinance. Section 4, examples of prohibited noises. The following acts, among others, which produce sound are commonly associated with loud, disturbing, and unnecessary noise. These examples should not be deemed to be exclusive or limited. The examples are namely A, unreasonably loud music, amplified or otherwise, that can be heard from within a residence or dwelling, or heard outside a residence or dwelling by neighboring inhabitants. B, the idling of commercial vehicles on any way within the town of Woodstock between 10:30 p.m. and 6 o'clock a.m. if that noise disturbs residents or guests of temporary lodgings. C, demolition or construction noise, that is, pneumatic hammers, pile drivers, blasting machinery, or other devices that create loud noises from the hours of 10:30 p.m. until 6 o'clock a.m. All noises shall be presumptively prohibitive if in excess of 65 decibels during the day from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and 55 decibels at night from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. as measured from the property line or at any point within the receiving premises. Outside this standard, all noises and noise complaints will be evaluated under reasonable and prudent standards for the conditions that exist then and there, unless specifically prohibited by definition. Section 5, application for a special permit exemption. Applications for a permit for temporary relief from this ordinance may be made to the town building inspector if construction related, or directly to the select board or their designee if related to hardship or otherwise. Permits shall set forth the relief, any limitations or conditions pertaining to the noise, the duration of the special permit, and reasonable time limits for its abatement. Section 6, penalties. The penalty for a violation of this ordinance shall be a fine of $100 for a first offense. For any second violation within a 12-month period, the fine shall be $250. For any third or subsequent violation within a 12-month period, the fine shall be $500. All fines are payable to the town of Woodstock within 5 days from the date of issuance. Failure to remit the fine within 5 days may result in the issuance of a summons and added fines. Any request for a due process hearing must be submitted in writing within 3 days of the receipt of the violation. This is a yes or no question, and a majority vote will determine the whether it passes or fails. Article 22, the authority to sell the old fire station. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to sell the old fire station located at 17 Lost River Road, tax map 106, lot 102. This article is contingent on the passage of Article 3. It is anticipated that the funds received from the sale of this property will be used to offset the debt incurred to purchase the property at 459 Daniel Webster Highway, tax map 115, lot 004. The selectmen and the budget committee recommend this. Article 23, the authority to sell the old public works garage. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to sell the old public works garage located at 24 Kankomigas Highway, tax map 107, lot 012. This article is contingent on the passage of Article 3. It is anticipated that the funds received from the sale of this property will be used to offset the debt incurred to purchase the property at 459 Daniel Webster Highway, tax map 115, lot 004. The selectmen and the budget committee recommend this. Article 24, a multi-year lease at the Father Roger Bilodeau Community Center. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to lease a portion of the Father Roger Bilodeau Community Center to the Linwood Area Senior Services Council for a period of 3 years from January 1, 2021 to December 31, 2023 for an annual rental payment of $12,528 for use as a center for its programs and activities on such terms and conditions as the selectmen of the towns of Woodstock and Lincoln shall determine. The selectmen recommend this. Article 25, a multi-year lease at the Father Roger Bilodeau Community Center. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to lease a portion of the Father Roger Bilodeau Community Center to the Lincoln Woodstock Community Child Care Center for a period of 3 years from January 1, 2021 to December 31, 2023 for an annual rental payment of $25,596 for educational and child care purposes on such terms and conditions as the selectmen of the towns of Woodstock and Lincoln shall determine. The selectmen recommend this. A yes or no vote is required. Article 26, any other business to transact any other business that may legally come before this meeting. All right. Now, we did have questions last week, or minimal questions. If you have comments or you wish to talk to any of these articles, please raise your hand by hitting the button in the participants screen. It's at the bottom of my page, or just kind of raise your hand so one of the leaders of this group can see you speaking.
At one point, Ken, Janelle had her hand raised.
All right, Janelle, Janelle's iPhone, you may speak.
I'm all set. I was just trying to tell you that my iPhone was me. I just unmuted that. I mean, I just
Yeah.
did that. So I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Bill Mellon asked a question last week regarding Articles 22 and Article 23, the selling of the old fire station and the old public works garage. And I believe someone has an answer to this question, and I will recognize whichever person that is, our town attorney or one of the select people who wants to know the answer.
think the question.
All right,
was
Laura,
whether-
yeah,
I think the question was whether the warrant articles could be removed from the warrant at this point. And upon further reflection, no, once the warrant is posted, you cannot add or remove a warrant article. So those articles will remain on the warrant.
are there any other questions about any of the other articles?
It's Mark Pitts.
All right, Mark, yes?
I just, I asked Susan before this call, but I'm still curious here. What kind of agreement does the racetrack have or in their contract in terms of like hours of operation and, just-
I think I can answer that whenever they want to, up to a certain point. I think at one time we discussed a mutual agreement with a prior Board of Selectmen of no races past 11 p.m., but I do not know if that in fact has any legal, anything legal that could bind them to that.
So what you're saying, Ken, is it's basically just they can operate, they can do anything they want until 11 o'clock?
I believe that was the original agreement, Mark. Scott?
There is in the agreement that I read a decibel limit. And I actually downloaded a decibel meter onto my phone last fall. And I was going to go down there on a Saturday and see how it worked, how they were doing. But unfortunately, it was during one of those busy weekends and I did not get down there. But
Well, you can use my backyard anytime, Scott.
that is definitely my intent to make sure they're complying with the original agreement that they signed when they first opened.
Yeah, from the time they originally opened, there was something made as modification or a requirement of certain type of mufflers and to limit the sounds. And that did improve the sound, if you can believe that, Mark. Yes, Gil. Unmute yourself, Gil. There
At
you
one
are.
point, there we go, thank you. At one point last year, we had a meeting with the new track owners and requested that they start earlier at 6:30 instead of 7, so we could get them to maybe end earlier than 11, and eventually I believe they did that. So that's the latest that I can remember as far as hours of operation and so forth that we've discussed with the new owners.
So just one more question, and so there's nothing about like, what am I thinking here? So, there's race time, and we all know race time is race time, and so it's loud and then it just ends. But is there anything about because I guess I'm not sure. Do they rent? Do individuals rent time on the track for practice? Because that's definitely something that like I'm pretty sure you know about it, Ken. I mean, like cars will get on that track any time of the day, any time of the week, and just go around there. And they're not racing, of course, but it's still. And so my question is there anything in that agreement about just individuals getting on the track?
Well, I can confirm that they do it, but I cannot state an opinion in my present position.
Fair enough.
All right, Scott.
I don't remember offhand, but Mark, we can email you a copy of that agreement, and you can look it over. But I don't remember offhand. I don't think there's any restrictions on hours of operation or anything like that in that original agreement.
Thank you.
And any new ordinance, I think, was exempted their prior business operating prior to any type of adoption of a sound ordinance, if that were to pass. Any other questions? I'll go down the articles. Again, I won't read them.
Sorry, I have one question. Sorry,
Yep.
I guess I can go on video, but I don't want to scare anyone. I picked up on something. What's a class? Can you give me an example of a class 5 road in our town?
I think Cox
Paradise
Farm.
Road.
No, Paradise Road is a class 5, and the Cox Farm Road is a class 6 road. Is that what I'm remembering?
Unmaintained, yes.
Okay, so
Unmaintained class 6.
Okay, so
Class
that's what,
5 roads are the maintained town roads.
okay. So that's what the budget's for.
Yes, we have about 10 miles total, actually, of actual town roads. You have to remember that Route 3 is state and 112 is state owned.
And 175 also.
And 175 also, that's correct.
Great. Okay, thank you.
All right, Article 1, do you approve of the optional meeting procedure? I'd like somebody to explain that Article 2 for our listeners, please.
Well, if no one's going to jump in, I guess I won't.
I was looking for my
But,
notes.
oh, yeah, go ahead, Laura, if you want. Yeah, we're paying you to be here. You might as well talk.
Right. So because of the ongoing pandemic, the legislature has approved various different ways to hold town meeting this year. The way the Woodstock selectmen have opted to proceed is called House Bill 1129. And what that allows are these 2 virtual sessions to explain and discuss the warrant articles and for the selectmen to amend those articles if that seems appropriate. And then all of the articles get voted on by ballot, in this case on April 13th. You will actually get 2 ballots. You will get one for the election of officers, and then you're going to get what's called an alternative ballot that has everything else on it. And the first question is going to be, do you approve of using this optional town meeting procedure? And if that article fails, every other article except the election of officers fails. So it's the really important question on the ballot.
All right, thank you. Anybody have a question they want to ask after hearing that? Cheryl, you made a
No,
motion.
no, I'm just letting you know that Sharon Carroll has her hand raised.
Okay, Sharon Carroll, oh, there you are. You have to unmute yourself, Sharon. There's a little
Yep.
button. Got it, there you are.
Okay, so my question is about the noise ordinance that you had. It sounded to me like a gentleman's agreement between you and the racetrack. They were going to be finished before 11. Did I misunderstand that, or do we have anything in writing that is now the new procedure for the racetrack? Thank you.
Okay, Gil.
When we spoke, it was a year ago, I want to say October, November, when we first met with these folks. There was nothing put in writing there. It was pretty much a gentleman's agreement, Sharon, for starting earlier, because they used to start and go from 7 to 11. We tried to mitigate that a little bit and go from 6:30 to whenever they would close, but it wouldn't have been past 11. But yes, that was sort of a gentleman's agreement. You're right.
All right.
So
I
is
see
that something you might be able to get in writing so that we're not like trying to jump through hoops and he said, she said, anything like that? Do you think we could work on that? Living right down from the racetrack myself. Thank you.
Certainly. I see no reason why we couldn't address that with the new owners.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kevin Foley, I see an electronic hand in front of your face. Is that by accident? You're not a registered voter. You need to unmute yourself.
Nope, that wasn't anything intentional. Might be my cursor. Sorry about that.
Okay, well, oh, it's my cursor. Never mind.
Oh.
Okay. All right, so I just moved my cursor. All right, Article 3, the bond purchase land and buildings. This is why we actually have to have 3 more meetings. So if you have any questions about it or want to know anything about it, if you think it's a good idea, a bad idea, this is one of your chances to say that.
Scott has his hand raised, Ken.
Okay,
I just had
Scott?
a question for Laura. Now, the 3 more meetings we have to have, are they going to be, do they need to be on the town warrant articles, or is it a public hearing on the bond?
Both. So the one you're having on March 3rd is another bond hearing, so we'll be limited just to the bond question. The ones you're having the 2 Wednesdays after that, unfortunately, bond counsel has indicated that we're going to need to do basically these 2 HB 1129 hearings again. So it will be 1 bond article and then 2 weeks of warrant articles again.
And unfortunately, I have to read the warrant articles at every meeting.
Well, I don't think you have to read them all at once. I was sort of
Okay.
anticipating you were going to do it like we did it last week. Read an
Well,
article.
we were talking,
so-
we were talking earlier to see if we could speed up the process by just
Gotcha.
doing them all at once. So this is, it is easier to do it one by one from my perspective.
For
So,
sure.
Is that including on the 3rd for the bond meeting?
No, that's
Okay,
just
so-
limited to the bond.
Okay.
okay, so that would be
So-
next Wednesday's meeting.
Yeah.
All right, I see Fred Englert, I think it is. And you'll need to unmute him.
Not yet. You haven't, there you go.
There you go, Fred. I can't hear you, Fred, and you muted him again. He's muted, Anne. There you go. Talk, nope.
There you
Okay, talk quick, Fred.
go. Keep your hand off the keyboard. Okay, just wondering how you arrived at the figure of 480,000. Was that the selling price or negotiations with Dalty? Where did that number come from?
That was his asking price. There wasn't any negotiation. We have done some research since then, and to replace that building or to build that building today, not including the site work or the half a dozen storage units, would cost us $555,000. The other place we have to that we could have used for land to put a new building would have been, of course, down by the old dump site, and we're right back in the flood zone there. So jumping from the kettle to the fire, I would think. But at this point, that's where it stands. It also comes with not just the storage units, but 5.15 acres of property, and it's all set to go. You know, it's sort of a turnkey type operation. We could get right in
All
there.
right, Scott wants to say something.
Stewart's appraisal didn't include the land either, Fred.
Okay.
So-
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to know how you arrived at that number.
Dalton's been good enough to hold that price for us for 2 years as it is, without any question. It was just, he came right out and he approached us. We didn't approach him, which I thought was just damn decent of him, to be honest with you. And it's a great opportunity, in my opinion.
All right. Any other questions on Article 3? All right, I'm moving to Article 4, the operating budget. We've had a budget hearing and we discussed this last week also. Is there any new question anybody would like to ask? All right, Article 5, the Capital Reserve Fund for the Community Center and Father Bilodeau Community Center in Lincoln. Any questions about that? All these capital reserve funds we do every year. Article 6, revaluation. We're putting aside money for the next thing that we might need for any of them? I heard somebody say something. Nope. Okay, Article 7, paving. Do we usually spend all the paving that we appropriate in 1 year, or do we save it?
Close usually. The price goes up every year of paving. So it's usually pretty close.
Okay, highway block grant, the state tells us how much we may get, and we just raise that so we can spend it. That's Article 8.
Right, exactly. It's just a laundry article.
Money in,
Shouldn't
money
say a
out.
laundry.
All right, Scott, you muted yourself, so I didn't hear your last comment there.
I shouldn't say a laundered article. No, it's just money in, money out.
Okay, thank you. Town building maintenance, $40,000, again, capital reserve fund. Any questions on why that is needed? The fire department equipment fund, $15,000. Same thing, putting aside for a future purchase. Fire truck that's the biggie for replacing them. And when we just got one, and what's that going to be the life of that? When do we think we'll spend it again?
2024.
Okay, thank you.
We're up for a new truck.
All right. Library computer equipment trust $1,000 a year to buy computers, I guess.
Maintain.
Article 13, Main Street revitalization. We put $5,000 a year for that for downtown. Article 14, solid waste facility improvement, $15,000, putting that aside. Article 15, highway maintenance, $45,000. Article 16, vehicle, $50,000 heavy duty highway equipment. Sewer department, $50,000. Water department, $50,000. Article 19, record preservation, trying to save the old records of the town, $10,000. Police department equipment, $10,000. We have just talked about the sound ordinance some, and Article 22, selling the old fire station and the old public works garage down in the floodplain. Article 24, the leases. Article 25, the 2 leases there for the Father Bilodeau Center. Are there any other questions?
Can I just clarify on the paving that paving capital reserve is one that we save in that to do major projects. The capital outlay is a line item that we usually expend all of it, just to be clear. There's two different things.
All right, thank you for that clarification. All right, does anyone else have anything else they wish to say? Bill Waterhouse, something's happening with you. Do you have anything to say? All right, we will do this again 1 week from tonight at 5 p.m. And
Or just the bond.
Yeah, who's bringing the booze next week? So,
You are, Ken. They didn't tell you?
it's kind of a rare product in our house. So.
Well, you go over to mine.
All right.
So next week is just for the bond. We won't be doing, Laura, do we need Ken to moderate that where we're just having a public hearing for the bond?
Correct. The selectmen can do it. Or the
So-
budget
Okay.
committee. Yeah.
So you get a week off.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. So I won't break the budget on your what you are paying me. So
You're more than welcome to attend, Ken, if you like, but you don't have to read all your articles that week.
okay, all right.
You get a break.
Can we? Is there a way to? Okay, Fred Englert, see your hand up.
I just wanted to confirm the time. Is that at 5 o'clock as well?
Yes,
Yes,
all our
Fred.
meetings will start at 5.
Okay, thank you.
And we're adding 2 more, Fred, the 10th and the 17th.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Ken, I believe Pauline Harrington has a question.
Okay, Pauline, you'll unmute yourself, Pauline. We can't hear you. Still nothing. Hold the space bar down on your computer, and that's what I do on mine. But you're coming from an iPad, so you have to look for the
There
little
you go.
mic.
There you go.
Yeah, same code numbers?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, same phone numbers, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for being a part of helping our community grow during this rough patch we're in this country. And let's hope everybody gets vaccines. All of you who have second shots tomorrow night, please remember to keep your appointments and be there at your appointed time. Yes, Gil?
I'd just like to say, Ken, that over the past 15 years, we have redone our our mitigation, all hazards mitigation program every 5 years. And we always have the question of pandemic, and it always seems like such an obscure thing to think about. But we do have contingencies in our mitigation program for this. And it's just kind of crazy now that it actually occurred sooner than later.
All right. Well, thanks you all for being here, and we'll see you next week. So whoever turns this off, you can turn me out, or I can turn myself out. So good night.
Thank you,
Good
everyone,
night.
for joining
Thank you,
us.
everybody.
So-